A note is placed on the table by the youngster. A policeman reads it, stands up, and approaches him. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Like a curse, everyone has had terrible luck at some point in their lives, and then it usually keeps happening until they don't know what to do. Things are said to happen in threes most of the time, but sometimes they don't. This single mother was really exhausted and felt like she had everything on her plate. But then one day her kid accomplished something amazing. For Amanda Canton, the day had been difficult. Indeed, it looked like those days occurred every day in general. The single mother had been going through financial difficulties for some time, trying to provide her child the best she could, and then her precious boy was ill, just when she thought things couldn't get much worse. Already anxious about her son's health, she was burdened with the additional responsibility of covering her son's medical expenses. Amanda begged for things to get better since she had absolutely lost all hope. She had no idea, though, that her 9-year-old son would stand up. Amanda and her kid resided in Tonawanda, which is located in Erie County. She prayed that things would improve for them because they had lately fallen on really difficult times. But for some reason, she kept becoming worse and worse in various circumstances. For some time now, Amanda had felt as like everything in her life was getting out of hand, but she knew that she had to get back up and carry on for the benefit of her kid. Her father tragically died in 2015, and when the grieving mother returned to her car after the incredibly trying burial, she discovered a parking ticket on the windscreen. Amanda went to the courts because she was determined to deal with it severely, but unfortunately, upon her return, she discovered that another police officer had issued her a second parking ticket. Amanda was worn out, and one day she came home to find that things might actually get worse, just when she had assumed they couldn't. Amanda arrived home to find that she and her kid had been evicted by her landlord. She was going to have a difficult time getting the landlord to agree to a settlement, so she begged the judge for assistance during the hearing. Later on, it got too near. Amanda repeatedly expressed her concerns and difficulties, stressing that her predicament wasn't the result of a lack of effort on her part. There was nowhere to park because the courthouse was in a congested, busy location. So, in the hopes that her car would be safe, she parked where there were no parking signs. Unbelievably, she noticed the same police officer scribbling another parking ticket as she was making her way to her car. She pondered what she had done to warrant such a negative turn of events as she looked up at the sky. Amanda was able to maintain her composure for her child, even though she was struggling to pay for her father's burial, all of her parking fines, and finding money for a new apartment. You never would have imagined that things were going to become worse. Amanda's will to continue living for her son Noah was the one thing that kept her going, despite everything else was going wrong in her life. You would do everything for your children, and any parent can relate to that. Your children are your first concern. She got a call one day from her son's school informing her that he had been ill throughout the day and needed to get to the hospital right away. She obviously hurried to pick him up from the nurse's office and took him to the hospital, where medical professionals attended to him straight away. All Amanda wanted was for her kid to feel better. She was in a panic. She was just about maintaining her composure until she saw the doctor's bill, even though she knew she had to be tough. Amanda never imagined that her situation would worsen to the point where she would need a doctor's note to push herself over her breaking point. She was doing her best to just keep going since there didn't appear to be any other option because things had become so bad. Her work was underpaying, her bills were piling up, and she had no one to turn to for support or even to beg for a small amount of assistance. Her sense of helplessness and the stress of being a single mom were palpable. All she needed was for someone to support her and reassure her that things will work out. She was still in mourning over her father, and these difficult circumstances made her miss him even more since he might have helped her. Amanda looked at the doctor's bill again, and her heart fell again. She was aware that she couldn't afford the co-payment no matter what. At that moment, she told herself, "This is it." Her said, "Enough is enough," and the doctor and her got into a furious quarrel. Although Amanda was quite angry, she thought the doctor's charge was far more than necessary. They both shouted so loudly that it was the first time her kid heard how horrible things were for his mother, and most of the others waiting in the office knew about Amanda's financial struggles. The small guy sensed his mother was in trouble, even though he had no idea how, and he felt obligated to take action at least. That's how it seemed like the mother had reached her lowest point. She had to overdraft her account in order to pay the copay. The $15 she had in her pocket at the moment was all she had, and she used it to buy her kid breakfast at Denny's and spend the last few dollars at the arcade. She reasoned that, despite the confusion, it would be a good treat for him after his hospital stay. Then, as Amanda and Noah were leaving the arcade, they noticed something that stopped them in their tracks. Observing a shift in his mother's behavior, she quietly informed her son that the policeman who had issued her all of the parking fines was, in fact, seated inside the restaurant. Amanda felt her entire body seized with rage. This was a man who, without realizing it, had put so much more stress on her life when all she was doing was attempting to resolve an already existing problem. Overwhelmed, she wanted to yell at the policeman, tell him what was going on, and how he was making matters worse for her and her kid. She considered telling him how she felt and suggesting that he put himself in her position to see how it would have felt. Then something stopped her when she thought she could no longer contain her emotions. She felt awful that Noah was now aware of her issues and thought she had failed as a mother as she watched him eat breakfast that morning. Her financial problems were on her mind constantly, and she kept wondering how she was going to pull them out of this predicament. Amanda was upset that this specific police officer continued to show up and worsen her circumstances. She tried, but she was unable to unwind. Because he looked up to them so much, Noah had always told his mother that he wanted to be a police officer when he grew up, and that this was his lifetime desire. He was always so fascinated by police officers and yearned to speak with them. But now that he knew about his mother's parking issues, he was beginning to feel confused. As they were enjoying breakfast, Noah saw that they were sitting next to Ryan Benitez, a Tonawanda Police Department officer who was dining by himself. He could tell by looking at his mother that she was upset and that certain things were on repeat in her head. As Noah considered his options, he became anxious. He did not want to put Amanda through any more hardship, therefore his next step might either be brave or terribly foolish and regretful. I appreciate you seeing. Would you kindly like and post the video on social media? We promise to get back to you as soon as we can. When Cassidy Hooper was born in Charlotte, North Carolina in 1996, physicians were at a loss as to how to treat her odd illness. Cassidy was missing her eyes and nose, but other than that, she was well and healthy. The physicians' only explanation for not understanding why was that they had never seen anything like it. Born without eyes or a nose, 17-year-old Cassidy Hooper of North Carolina experienced a momentous day on September 18th when she underwent the last surgery necessary to give her a nose. It's been a lengthy journey, but the day has finally arrived, her 48-year-old father, engineer J. Aaron Cassidy, stated. Cassidy is undoubtedly happy that this day has arrived. Senior at Governor Moorhead School, Cassidy expressed her excitement to ABC News earlier this year about being able to breathe and smell via her nose for the first time. "I'll have a real nose like everyone else's," she added. Because Cassidy was blind, she went to a special school. She was had to put up with bullying from her peers, just like far too many other kids with special needs. However, Cassidy resisted letting haters and bullies stop her. Instead, her loved ones claim that she is well known for her exceptionally optimistic view on life. She states, "I don't really need it easy, I just need it possible," to sum up her philosophy on life. Cassidy has undergone many skin grafts and face reconstructive procedures at Levine Children's Hospital in Charlotte since 2007. When she was 11 years old, skin flaps will be stretched over a bone or cartilage transplant from another area of her body during the 3 final procedures, which will take place over the course of 2 to 3 weeks. Cassidy has never let anything stop him from pursuing his goals and being optimistic. "Things always may be hard," she stated, "but here's what I think. I don't need easy, I just need possible." Nobody is aware of the cause of Cassidy's uncommon birth abnormality, which most likely happened in the first 2 weeks of pregnancy and left her without eyes or a nose. "Her brain and heart are normal," stated Susan Hooper, a 43-year-old kindergarten teacher, her mother. "Nothing else is going on with her." Hooper compared the sequence of operations to laying a house's foundation. Pediatric surgeon Dr. David C. Matthews will execute the procedure. Cassidy has had 4 or 5 expander procedures thus far in an effort to pierce her gums. She then underwent surgery to shatter her jaw and open up her nasal passages in order to realign it. Her nasal hole continued closing, so a skin transplant was necessary to help maintain it open after that. In order to bring her upper jaw into better alignment with her lower jaw, she had to undergo yet another significant jaw surgery. This summer, 3 further procedures were performed to prepare the region where her nose would be joined. Cassidy grew out of her custom-made eye prosthesis when she was a tiny kid, but her family could not afford to replace them because they cost $5,000 each. Her mother remarked, "Insurance didn't pay 1 cent. We had already begun the process of reshaping her head, bringing her eyes closer together and changing her nose. We didn't have to pay again. We weren't going to pay for it," she said. They were going to get new artificial eyes after Cassidy's nose surgery was finished. Cassidy attended Governor Moorhead, a residential K-12 school for the blind, from the 5th grade, and there was no obstacle too great for her to overcome. She plays track and was eligible for a Charlotte Curling Club scholarship last year. Cassidy came to her mother during the first week of school and remarked, "Mom, everyone here is blind, so I'm normal." Even though she used to get some strange looks and jeers, she has an active social life these days. "Honestly, there's been a bit of teasing, but not more than any other child on a regular day," said her mother. "Do you have a question?" Hooper will frequently ask ahead of time if she sees her daughter staring at someone and feels threatened. She appears quite different, and she will respond to the inquiry on her own. She enjoys everything else that other adolescents like, and youngsters understand it's simply an external issue. They're more tolerant, she said. Cassidy is a motivated student who plans to major in broadcast journalism when she enters college. She's very outgoing and never met a stranger she didn't like, Hooper added. She always says, "Put me near the pool and I'll go make friends, wherever we go." She is really confident in herself and enjoys talking a lot. Cassidy uses a cable to guide her while she completes the 75-yard sprint in track and field competitions. "I hold onto this rope, and it slides across the cable like a zip line," she stated. "I just run, and it helps me." She uses an assistance to act as her eyes when playing the ice sport of curling, which is an Olympic event in Canada. Cassidy remarked, "If it's something hard, I get through it." A legislation that mandated the Department of Public Instruction to terminate one of 3 schools in North Carolina that catered to the blind and deaf was challenged by Cassidy in 2011. She spoke at a Raleigh public meeting, and her school was saved. According to ABC's WBTV, which has been following Cassidy's tale for 6 years, she was also just offered her first job at the Library for the Blind. Every week she will go to Raleigh via Amtrak from Charlotte. Cassidy is physically challenged, but she has big plans for the future. She said, "If you have challenges, be positive about it," to other disabled people. "I'm not sure I've ever seen a little girl with such courage and commitment before. Cassidy is a true inspiration to all of us." Cassidy made the decision that she wanted a nose when she was 11 years old. Despite the intricate and costly nature of the procedure, her parents gave her the freedom to choose. The medical professionals started working on giving Cassidy a nose. She had 3 surgeries for her new nose when she was a teenager. Her legs and forehead skin were utilized by surgeons to create the nose. In addition, she received prosthetic eyes. Her eye sockets were able to converge closer together after several surgeries. "I appreciate you seeing. Would you kindly like and post the video on social media? We'll respond to you as soon as we can." You should constantly be considerate and receptive to those around you, since life can change quickly. You never know when you might need assistance, after all. I want to tell you a tale today that will undoubtedly make you feel something. Keep watching. It will keep your interest. A sumptuous and delicious breakfast is a great way to start any long day. An old man from Texas went to the Waffle House in Lamarck, hoping to get a dish of great breakfast. The supper, nevertheless, would not proceed as arranged. You'll want to reconsider placing an order after the Waffle House server did something unthinkable to the food on the elderly man's plate. Another woman discreetly recorded the waitress after noticing what she was up to, and the video quickly gained popularity. One of Laura's favorite restaurants is the Waffle House. She operates a salon in Lamarck, Texas. But when she entered the Waffle House early on March 3rd, she had no clue that she would see something so bizarre. There were plenty of patrons inside the Waffle House who were eager to start their great meal. It has long been regarded as one of Lamarck's most well-known locations. Nevertheless, this waitress continued to perform her duties despite the busy day. Just like any other day, Laura had ordered her cup of coffee. She was enjoying every sip of it, looking at people around her doing their own thing. That's when she noticed the weird behavior of one of the waitresses, and she almost choked on her coffee. Laura caught the waitress red-handed when the latter did something unimaginable, and the first thought that came to Laura's mind was to make a video of what the waitress was doing so that she could show it to everyone. Yvonne Williams, the 18-year-old waitress in question, has been working at Waffle House for a while in an effort to save and accumulate money for college. But after March 3rd, everything was different. For some time now, Laura had been observing Yvonne. Laura suspected Yvonne was up to something, so every time she went to the Waffle House, her eyes were fixed on her. That day proved her to be correct. A very elderly customer came into the Waffle House early on March 3rd and sat down directly in front of Yvonne's desk. He was waiting for his order of ham, hoping for something unusual and better than his normal fare. The Waffle House was a busy location all the time, so Yvonne had to work hard to keep up with the workload. She put a lot of effort into her work and attempted to please her clients, but what she accomplished for the elderly guy was amazing. Yvonne was working that morning, serving clients, just like every other day. The elderly guy had placed his order, and when Yvonne delivered it, she did something really bizarre and unimaginable on his plate. Yvonne was unaware that anyone was observing her behavior. She carried out her plan, not realizing that there was someone observing her and recording everything she did. When Laura realized what Yvonne was up to, she was shocked and in disbelief. When she had watched Yvonne shift her eyes furtively in all directions before carrying out her plan, she had understood that she was up to something strange. This was something Laura had never witnessed before. She was taken aback and unsure of how to respond. Was Yvonne really doing what I'm seeing, and how? Was all that was on her mind. Laura began to wonder what might have motivated Yvonne to ruin the elderly man's meal in the way that she was. Despite her best efforts to manage, perhaps she was just under too much strain because it was rush hour. What made Yvonne decide to do this with the elderly man? Why had she chosen him out of all the patrons in the cafe at that particular time? Was there a secret motive behind her actions? This wasn't just any elderly dude that visited the Waffle House. Adrian Charpanta was his name, and he was well respected by the whole Lamarck service team. However, Yvonne was unaware of this. Yvonne had been chatting to the elderly man behind the desk who was seated in front of her the entire time. She talked to him while doing what she had to do in secret, hiding his plate behind the bar. Yvonne was so engrossed in her work that she ignored her cook's request to pick up the outstanding orders and carried on conversing with the elderly guy. Yvonne was carrying out her plan while hiding behind the counter, but she was unaware that Laura was seeing everything and recording it all with her phone. The throng was so dense that Laura was unable to hear a word that the two were discussing, even though she wanted to know if Yvonne's actions had a purpose. Laura saw that the elderly guy was sick and had difficulty breathing since he had an oxygen tank and a pipe that entered his nose. She then observed Yvonne approach the man even closer in an attempt to hear what he had to say to her. Yvonne stared hard into the man's eyes and did not move her gaze when he spoke to her. Although she was aware that he had requested her to do something, she wasn't sure if she was authorized to do so. With the exception of the elderly guy, Yvonne paid little attention to anything else in her immediate surroundings. She didn't appear to be aware that work was mounting and that many other customers were also waiting for their purchases. This story started when the elderly guy had requested Yvonne to do a really odd favor. Laura, who had been observing, thought Yvonne's course of action was somewhat weird. The elderly guy had informed Yvonne that he lacked strength and was excessively debilitated in his hands and arms. He begged for assistance since it was getting harder for him to chop the ham that he had purchased. Taking the elderly man's plate, Yvonne held it in front of her. He was baffled as to why she had taken his breakfast dish away and what she was planning. not to completely postpone his meal, but rather to beg for assistance. The cook was calling for the food that was ready to be delivered, the customers were asking questions, and her manager was looking at her for concentrating on only one client. Ivoni disregarded all of this. She chose to assist the man initially. Ivoni chose to carve the ham for the elderly guy since she recognized that he was having trouble with it. In order for the man to properly consume the ham, she took the dish and began chopping it up into smaller pieces. Laura suspected that Ivoni was up to something nefarious, and this was precisely what was going on behind the counter. Unaware that this small gesture would alter the course of her life forever, Ivoni returned the ham to the elderly man. Laura knew precisely what to do with the film she had recorded, because she had never witnessed an act like this before. She wanted everyone to see the kindness of individuals, so she uploaded the video on her Facebook page. Laura had only inquired for her bill when her phone began to vibrate constantly before it could come. In a matter of minutes, Ivoni gained notoriety on Facebook, and a well-known person took notice of her tale and was getting ready to give her the surprise of her life. Conversely, Ivoni had no idea that Laura was following her around and had taken her to Facebook fame. She had no clue how many people, especially that one renowned person, were completely in awe of her and knew about her now. Even now, Ivoni believes that what she did was nothing out of the usual. She helped the client in front of her without hesitation because she felt it was her job and responsibility to do so. For anybody, she would have done it. Laura sent a really kind note on Facebook for Ivoni, stating, "She got his plate and started chopping up his ham right away. Though seemingly little, I'm sure he saw it as enormous. I appreciate that your gesture of generosity and concern caught my attention when I woke up." The Facebook post received a lot of attention within a short period of time, as seen by the 99,000 likes and 47,000 shares it received. But Ivoni's happy days were far from over. She had no idea what the following minute had in store for her. It's true that Ivoni's mother knew she had raised her daughter well and was quite proud of her. Social media's support for Ivoni would have made her happy, but her mother's pride would have been what really important. Ivoni deserved all of the attention she was suddenly receiving. She was deserving of all the encouragement, as her deed of generosity amply shone. In today's world, few people give a stranger any thought. The city decided to take action for the young, compassionate Ivoni, since everyone was rooting for her. The events that followed profoundly and irrevocably altered little Ivoni's life. Ivoni was in for a surprise just when she believed her days of glory were finished. One day, Mayor Bobby Hawking stopped by the Waffle House where she worked. However, why would someone with so much going on visit the Waffle House? As the mayor walked inside the diner, there was something concealed behind his back. He gave Ivoni a sizable check in appreciation of her generosity. She was in shock at her good fortune. How had the mayor ever heard of her? Texas Southern University, which had paid $16,000 for Ivoni, was the one who submitted the check. She would be able to attend college and finish her further education thanks to the scholarship. It might be challenging for someone Ivoni's age to make ends meet, much less pursue college dreams. But she put a lot of effort into it and was always considerate of others. While it won't cost you anything, a small act of kindness has the potential to offer everything. For Adrian, Ivoni's actions may have been necessary, but they meant the world to him. The elderly guy was relieved that someone could treat him with such grace and kindness because he had been distressed and anxious about his failing health. You should always be kind to everyone because you never know what the other person is going through in their life. Ivoni was unaware that Adrian had been grappling with his vulnerability for some time. "I can use a fork just fine, but when I cut it, it seems like I'm going to stab someone," he remarked. "I was simply like, fine, if you need help, that's what I am here for," Ivoni remarked. "I was still chopping his ham, even though my cook was shouting for me to come get some stuff I had on the board. Simply said, I would do it for anyone." The mayor was moved by Ivoni's deed as well. "Someone tagged me," he said, "and it just touched my heart right away. The younger generation's concern for the older age is very amazing." So folks, here's a little story that will definitely get you thinking. I hope that was enjoyable for you. That's all I have to say for today. Please give this a rating, forward it to your friends, and we'll talk to you later. Miguel Rojas, a resident of Florida, ended up in a Miami hospital at the beginning of 2016 when his dog, a beloved poodle, was viciously attacked on the street. The dog owner was severely disturbed by his terrifying incident. However, he later got a surprise that brought him to tears. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Retired, Miguel and his spouse Ada reside close to the airport in West Miami, Florida. The old couple's ages in January 2016 were 89 and 83, respectively. Their cherished 3-year-old Chihuahua, Gucci, was treated like a member of the family, and they thoroughly enjoyed his companionship. The Rojas were obviously distraught when their time with Gucci was unceremoniously ended. On Thursday, January 8th, Ada and their pet were out for a stroll in the neighborhood when they noticed 2 vicious American Bulldog mixes running wild. Ada and several of her neighbors attempted valiantly to fend off the savage mauling of the 5-pound Chihuahua by one of the bigger stray dogs. Regretfully, and with their greatest efforts, Gucci was battling for his life by the time the senseless attack ended. Miguel quickly wrapped up the unfortunate Chihuahua and hurried back home after receiving a call to get him. But Miguel's elevated emotions also caused his blood pressure to increase, and before long, the elderly man was having major problems as well. Actually, Miguel had a small heart attack upon arriving at his address, and help was summoned. The day following the event, Ada Rojas Jr., Miguel's daughter, discussed it with a local TV station. He simply embraced the dog, rushed all the way back to the home, and began weeping till I suppose he suffered a heart attack, she recounted. Sadly, tiny Gucci was not resilient enough to withstand the assault. Not that his old parents were spared from the experience. Ada suffered serious injuries to her arm while attempting to save her cherished dog from the colliding dogs, adding to Miguel's problems. The retiree therefore required about 100 stitches to repair the injury. Miguel was being cared for by professionals at South Miami Hospital while he recovered from his brief cardiac event. Miguel's shattered heart was the main ailment that could not be treated, even if his blood pressure was brought under control. After the horrible death of his tiny pet, the elderly man had no solace. Word of the horrifying attack on Gucci quickly went viral via social media. The Rojas' terrible dog loss traumatized them to the point where the internet community expressed concern. A local television news outlet took up the story later that day. In fact, the remarkably tragic tale started to get better on Thursday night when a kind stranger discovered the Rojas' passing on television. Mario Cambo, a local spectator, made the decision to change things. As soon as I saw the report yesterday, I knew I had to take action. This crushed my heart, therefore I took action, he said to a local station. This story broke me from the bottom of my heart. In an attempt to help Miguel and Ada, Cambo reached out to specialized breeders at the Wee Puppy Paws Kennel in Homestead, South Miami. The owner of the facility, Lynn Broderick, was moved when he informed her of his kind plan to buy the couple a new dog. The dog breeder made the decision that she wanted to pitch in as well. Consequently, Broderick gave Cambo a $300 half-price deal on a puppy Chihuahua. She claimed to the media that she had reduced the amount of money on the bill significantly since the news of Gucci's passing and the Rojas' loss had such an impact on her. I wanted to do something because it just broke my heart, Broderick said. One day after Gucci's death on Friday, January 9th, a friend of the Rojas family named Bina Fink Cole brought a 9-week-old Chihuahua to their home. Luckily, Miguel was discharged from South Miami Hospital just in time for the unexpected event. Without a doubt, the Rojas, the compassion of the strangers overwhelmed them. Miguel in particular lost all control of his tears as soon as he held the dog. Still, those were happy tears as well as sad ones. Later, despite his emotional outburst of raising the newcomer to his face and yelling, "Contento," Miguel informed a media reporter, "I am happy." But he had also shown sadness. It was not unexpected that the elderly man was experiencing conflicting feelings, considering what he had gone through in the last 24 hours. Ada quickly corrected her to say that the old couple had lost hope during their darkest hour, but the new Chihuahua puppy, shortly to be named Willie, had given them hope. She told the TV interviewer, "We felt Gucci's death very deeply, and this dog made us want to live. We had no desire to live. We have a gift from God." Ada Jr. had a wave of mixed feelings as well. She said to the media reporter, "I am numb with happiness and I am numb with pain to see my father suffering tremendously since the puppy died yesterday." Furthermore, the daughter emphasized, "They are family. They're not creatures of the wild. They are my kin." She continued saying, "I wouldn't want $1 million if someone provided it to me. It is not the $700 million jackpot that I desire. None of it is what we desire. My parents have shown us their unwavering love and affection. I have no desire for money. In my opinion, I have already won this battle." Much less cozy quarters were being shared by the dogs who had attacked Ada and killed Gucci, while Willie was adjusting to his new life in the appreciative Rojas home. The Miami-Dade Animal Services Department has successfully taken custody of both stray American Bulldog mixes. The local government agency's communications officer, Lillian Bojorquez, did in fact certify that the male and female animals were securely secured behind locked doors. She disclosed that although the department had been trying to get in touch with the owner, the male mutt had been discovered to have a microchip installed. If this dog's owner came forward, he was probably going to be freed because he had not been directly involved in Gucci's death. However, Bojorquez stated that with the female American Bulldog mix, things were different. She did not have a microchip and her owner had not identified themselves. The tragic attack on Gucci had been all the female's fault. As a result, after being placed in quarantine for 10 days, the animal could have to be put down for her behavior. However, because to the generosity of strangers, the Rojas retiree's story had a happier conclusion than anticipated. Miguel and Ada were excited about their future with Willie, even though they will always miss their beloved Gucci. "We've lost one of our family members, but this is going to allow my father to sleep today, and maybe he will feel a little bit better," Ada Jr. said to the reporters. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.